Are you taking the AP Music Theory exam? If you want every possible point on the part writing questions, FRQs 5 and 6, there are 6 progressions that you must master. These show up every single year. And the best part? Most have one best solution, like a music theory cheat code. So today, I'm giving you a crash course in black and white solutions, progressions where the rules are clear, the voice leading is predictable, and the graders are looking for a specific answer. And you will see these on the test. I'll show you each progression as it occurs in C major and C minor, but on the AP test, you'll need to write these in key signatures of up to 4 sharps and flats. Let's go. Let's start with the most iconic of them all, the Cadential 6-4, which is a 1-6-4 chord moving to a 5 or 5-7 chord heading into a cadence. The 1-6-4 isn't really a standalone chord, it's part of a 2-step pattern over scale degree 5 in the bass. The 1-6-4 will always lead into a root position 5 or 5-7 chord. Since all 6-4 chords must double the 5th, and the bass is already on the 5th, that means each of the upper voices will take the root, 3rd, or 5th in the 1-6-4 chord. If the next chord is a root position 5, the other voice on 5 stays there through both chords, just like the bass, while the other 2 voices step down, 1 to 7 and 3 to 2. When the next chord is 5-7, all 3 upper voices step down. Now the voice on 5 steps down to 4, just like the other 2. That's it. This one is truly black and white. Remember, for a Cadential 6-4, double the 5th and step down. And chances are, if you see a Cadential 6-4 leading to a 5 or 5-7, you'll see one of our next 2 progressions next. Next up, authentic cadences. 5-1 or 5-7-1 are the most common cadences, so here's how to do them right every time. For a 5 triad, the voice on scale degree 5 stays put, and the other 2 step up, 2 to 3 and 7 to 1, resolving the leading tone up. For a 5-7 chord, resolve the leading tone up, 7 to 1, and the chordal 7th down, 4 to 3. That leaves 2 to 1 for the remaining voice. Notice after the 5-7 chord, we have 3 roots and 1/3 in the final chord. You can always leave out the 5th here, and this is the expected voicing. These practically write themselves, if you get your resolutions right. The leading tone steps up, and the chordal 7th steps down. Don't confuse these. If you move that 7th up from 4 to 5, you'll lose 2 points. Now, sometimes they'll throw you a curveball and put a 6 chord after the 5 or 5-7 instead of a 1 chord, ending with a deceptive cadence. The voice leading is actually almost identical to authentic cadences, but now the bass moves to scale degree 6 in the last chord. In 5 to 6, the upper voices move 7 to 1, 2 to 1, and 5 to 3. From 5-7 to 6, just trade 5 to 3 for 4 to 3. Simple. Just remember the goal of a deceptive cadence. Surprise. You're expecting the tonic, but you get the submediant instead. The 3 upper voices all move as if this were an authentic cadence. The bass is the only one doing something different. Now for the hardest cadence, which is full of hidden dangers, the Phrygian half cadence. This is only found in minor keys, moving from 4-6 to 5. With the bass moving from scale degree 6 to 5, the problem here rears its ugly head if you double 6 in the 4-6 chord. If you move another voice from 6 to 5, you have parallel octaves. If you move from 6 to raise 7, you have an augmented second. And if you move from 6 to 2, you have a tritone. All of these are dead ends. And since the chord's roots are moving up by step, parallel fifths are always a danger in the upper voices. So how do we avoid these traps? We need to think about voice placement. This is a progression where the order of voices ends up being important. Remember this, the bass steps down from 6 to 5, and the soprano is going to step up from 4 to 5. One voice then has to move from 1 to 7 because the 5 chord has to contain the leading tone, and we can't get to it from 6 or we'll have an augmented second, and we can't get to it from 4 or we'll leap a tritone. These 3 movements, 6 to 5 in the bass, 4 to 5 in the soprano, and 1 to 7 in the alto or tenor are the three critical components of a Phrygian half cadence. The only option here is what to do with the remaining voice. It can't double 6, but it can double either other note. So it can move from 1 to 2, or 4 to 2. That's it. This is how you voice a Phrygian half cadence. My preference is for the first one since it's more stepwise, but they're both equally valid. So why is voice order so important here? In the first option, we have parallel fourths between the soprano and alto, which is totally fine. Parallel fourths are always allowed between the upper voices. But if we change the order to something like this, the fourths invert to fifths, and parallel fifths are no good. This won't happen as long as the soprano is the voice stepping from 4 to 5. In the second option, there's another danger that's a little harder to see. The voice moving from 4 to 2 ends up on a fifth against the bass in the second chord. This is no problem when an inner voice is involved. Here it's the alto. But again, if we move the voices around and have the soprano leaping from 4 to 2, we have now created an illegal hidden fifth, which is when the soprano leaps and the bass steps to a fifth in the same direction. This one trips students up a lot because it's fussy and only costs 1 point instead of 2, but we're aiming for perfection. So just remember, for a Phrygian half cadence, the soprano and bass step in opposite directions to 5, another voice steps to the leading tone from 1, and the remaining voice doubles any note except the bass. Alright, you'll find the progressions we've done so far at the end of a phrase, the cadence. Now let's look at a super common phrase opener, do, re, mi in the bass. This is actually 3 progressions in one. With the bass moving 1, 2, 3, the first chord would be 1, and the last chord would be 1, 6, with a passing chord in between. That passing chord can be 7, 6, 5, 6, 4, or 5, 4, 3. They all act very similarly. If the middle chord is a 7, 6, or 5, 6, 4, one of the upper voices, usually the soprano, will participate in voice exchange with the bass, moving 3, 2, 1 against the bass's 1, 2, 3. One voice will step to and from the leading tone, 1, 7, 1. These progressions then only differ by how the remaining voice moves. If it's a 7, 6 chord, it'll move 5, 4, 5. And if it's a 5, 6, 4, it'll just stay on 5 through all 3 chords. If the middle chord is a 5, 4, 3, there is a best option. The voice on 3 moves in parallel tenths with the bass, 3, 4, 5 over the bass's 1, 2, 3. Then the other voices do the same thing as the 5, 6, 4 option, 1, 7, 1, and stay on 5. This is the one time in all of Western music where the chordal seventh, 4, is allowed to step up to 5 instead of resolving down to 3. Take advantage of it. All 3 of these progressions are super common and 100% stepwise, which makes them perfect for smooth part writing. Notice how they all have one voice moving 1, 7, 1, another is hanging around 5, and the other moves stepwise away from 3 while the bass moves towards 3. There are other correct ways to do some of these, but they all involve weird doublings or jumps, so I stick to these every time. And finally, let's look at a chord the AP test loves to make sure you know, the third inversion dominant chord, 5, 4, 2. With the bass on the 7th of the chord, it must step down from scale degree 4 to 3, which means 5, 4, 2 will always be followed by a 1, 6 chord. One voice will always resolve the leading tone, 7 to 1, and another will always stay on 5 through both chords. That leaves the voice on 2 in the 5, 4, 2 chord, and good news, it can go almost anywhere. 2 to 1 is usually the best choice because it's stepwise and you end up with a doubled root in the 1, 6 chord. But you'll find 2 to 3 and 2 to 5 in real music as well, depending on what comes next. So just remember to resolve the leading tone, keep the common tone, then the remaining voice can move anywhere. There you have it. If you can master these progressions, you'll be walking into the exam ready to nail the part writing questions. You will absolutely see at least one of these on the test, but more likely, you'll see several. These are the kind of questions the AP test wants you to get right. So drill them, trust your training, and don't second guess the obvious answer. I'm Dr. Fromm, and I love music theory. Subscribe for more breakdowns, one chord at a time, so these rules become second nature to you. And check out my other videos for more AP help. Good luck on the exam, and I'll see you next time on Dr. Fromm's Music Lab.